You check your credit score on a Tuesday afternoon because a friend mentioned you should before applying for a mortgage. It comes back 711. You feel okay about that, maybe even a little proud. Then you sit across from the loan officer and she quotes you a rate that makes your stomach drop. You ask why. She pulls up a screen you can't see, types something, and says, "It's a few factors." A few factors. Like you didn't just hand her a number you've been quietly managing for 3 years. Here's what nobody tells you about that number. The credit score you obsess over isn't the score the bank actually used. There are dozens of versions of your credit score. FICO alone has over 40 different models. The one you checked on your phone this morning, there's a reasonable chance the mortgage lender never saw it. You've been training for the wrong exam. This isn't a video about fixing your credit. It's about something more uncomfortable. It's about why the credit score became the thing we all chase, what it was actually designed to do, and the 3 things that quietly matter more to your financial life than a 3-digit number ever will. And I'll warn you now, one of them is so obvious that the fact we don't talk about it should make you genuinely angry. My name is Nick, and I spend an unreasonable amount of time pulling apart the financial systems that feel neutral but aren't. If you've ever felt like you were playing by the rules and still losing, subscribe and hit that like button because today we're mapping exactly where the credit score game breaks down and what to actually build instead. Quick thing first, not a financial advisor, not financial advice, just patterns, numbers, and the part of the brochure they left blank. Let me introduce you to 2 people, Marcus and Dana. Same age, same city, same $72,000 salary at different companies. Both applied for a mortgage the same month. Marcus had a 760 credit score. Dana had a 764. 4 points higher. On paper, Dana wins. Except Marcus got the better rate because Dana's lender used a different FICO model that weighted her student loan history differently. 4 points ahead on the score she tracked. Worse outcome on the loan that mattered. Same game, different rulebook. Neither of them knew there were 2 rulebooks. Let's start with what the credit score actually is because most people have never heard the real version. In 1989, Fair Isaac Corporation introduced the FICO score to standardize lending decisions. Before that, loan approvals were genuinely chaotic. Bankers used gut instinct, personal relationships, and criteria that were often discriminatory in ways both subtle and not. The score was supposed to remove the human bias and replace it with math. And for that original purpose, it mostly worked. But here's what happened next. The score escaped the lab. It became a cultural object, a measure of personal virtue. A number people whispered about at dinner parties and quietly compared the way they once compared salaries. And the financial industry, which profits enormously from complexity, was happy to let that happen. Because a population focused on chasing a score is a population not asking harder questions. Here's the first thing that should bother you. Your credit score measures exactly one thing, your history of borrowing money and paying it back. That's it. It does not measure wealth. It does not measure income. It does not measure savings. It does not measure whether you are financially stable or one emergency away from collapse. You can have a perfect 850 credit score and $0 in savings. The score won't know. It doesn't care. And the loan officer sitting across from you, the one quoting you a rate based on that score, she does care. She just has a different set of numbers she's looking at that you've never been told to track. Quick honesty check. Think about the last time you checked your credit score versus the last time you calculated your actual net worth. Hold that answer. It matters for everything that comes next. Now let's run the math that makes this real, because the score's influence on your actual financial life is both more and less than you think. On the more side, the difference between a 620 credit score and a 760 on a $350,000 30-year mortgage is roughly $200 to $300 a month in payment difference. Over the life of that loan, that's somewhere between $72,000 and $108,000 in additional interest. Real money, significant money. Not caring about your credit score is genuinely expensive. But here's where it tips into trap territory. The credit score doesn't determine whether you can afford the house. It determines the price the bank charges you for the house. Those are different things. And the entire financial content industrial complex, the apps, the advice columns, the sponsored posts from credit monitoring services, has spent 15 years collapsing that distinction until most people can't see it anymore. They sold you a proxy and let you forget what it was a proxy for. Meet Marcus and Dana again, 6 months after the mortgage. Marcus bought a house he could afford at a rate he could manage because his debt-to-income ratio was clean. His emergency fund covered 6 months of expenses, and he'd never actually needed to care that deeply about his score. The score was a byproduct. Dana had spent 2 years optimizing her score. New card for the mix of credit, strategic balance management. She knew the utilization ratio cold. She got the slightly worse rate and bought a house that stretched her budget because the score made her feel more financially healthy than she actually was. The score was real. The financial cushion wasn't. Here's the part that should genuinely make you angry. The The three major credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, are private companies. They collect your financial data, score it, sell access to it, and also sell you monitoring services to watch the score they generate. In 2017, Equifax exposed the personal data of 147 million Americans, almost half the country. The settlement gave most victims about $125 each. The executives kept their jobs for months. The company's stock recovered within a year. You are the product. The score is the leash. A 2021 study by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau found that 1 in 5 Americans has a material error on at least one of their credit reports. Not a minor clerical thing, a material error, the kind that moves your score. And most of those people have no idea because checking your report carefully enough to catch the errors takes time, knowledge, and access to all three bureaus, none of which is how the system is marketed to you. The system is marketed to you as a scorecard you should manage. It's actually infrastructure you should audit. Now let's talk about the three things that actually matter. The ones the credit score doesn't capture and the ones almost nobody is building on purpose. The first is net worth momentum. Not your net worth today, the direction it's moving and how fast. A credit score is a snapshot. Net worth momentum is the film. Someone with a 680 score who's added $30,000 to their net worth in the last 12 months is in a completely different financial position than someone with a 750 who's been slowly drawing down savings to look solvent. The bank doesn't show you that comparison. The credit monitoring app doesn't show you that comparison. But your financial future lives in that comparison entirely. The rule of 72 applies here too. At 7% return, your invested assets double every 10 years. A person building net worth momentum at 28 who never touches their credit score again will, in most realistic scenarios, end up in a dramatically better financial position at 55 than the person who optimized every point while spending the rest. The second thing that matters is debt-to-income ratio. This one is almost ironic because lenders actually use it. They use it alongside the score, but we don't track it. We don't talk about it. There are no apps that send you push notifications about it. Your debt-to-income ratio is everything you owe monthly divided by everything you earn monthly. Most conventional lenders want to see it under 43%. The best rates go to people under 36%. And here's the gap. You can have a 780 credit score and a 50% debt-to-income ratio. The score rewards you for paying your debts on time. The ratio reveals that those debts are eating more than half your income. The lender sees both. The financial content industry mostly only talks about one of them. Marcus's debt-to-income was 28%. That mattered more than his score. Dana's was 41%. Her 4 extra points couldn't cover it. The third thing is what I'd call financial optionality, the ability to say no. This is the most important one and the least measurable, which is exactly why it never gets talked about. Financial optionality is the cushion that lets you turn down a bad job offer. The savings that let you wait for the right house instead of panicking into the wrong one. The paid-off car that lets you take the job with the lower salary but better trajectory. The emergency fund that means a transmission failure is a Tuesday and not a crisis. No score measures this. No lender reports on it. It doesn't show up in any dashboard. But every financially stable person I've ever studied had it, built deliberately, often quietly, before any of the other metrics looked impressive. Here's the research that reframes all of this. A study out of Princeton found that financial scarcity, the mental load of not having enough cushion, consumes the equivalent of about 13 IQ points of cognitive bandwidth. 13. That's more than the difference a full night of sleep makes. It's more than the cognitive hit of being functionally drunk. People managing financial stress aren't less smart. They're running heavier background processes. Every decision they make is made with less available capacity. The credit score doesn't measure that tax. It can't. A person drowning in financial stress who has never missed a payment looks identical to a person who is financially calm and secure. The score sees payment history. It doesn't see what those payments cost, and here's the quiet cruelty of that. The population most harmed by financial scarcity is the population most aggressively marketed credit monitoring products. The thing sold as the solution is measuring the symptom, not the cause. So let me hand you something actually useful. A 3-part audit that takes about 20 minutes and tells you more about your real financial health than any score ever will. First, calculate your net worth and write it down. Everything you own minus everything you owe. One number. Then set a calendar reminder to do it again in 90 days. You're not managing the number. You're watching the direction. Second, calculate your debt-to-income ratio. Add up every minimum monthly debt payment you have. Divide by your gross monthly income. If it's over 36%, that is the number to fix before you touch anything else. Not the credit score, the ratio. Third, count your months of expenses in liquid savings, not investments, not retirement accounts. Cash or near cash you could access in a week. 1 month is fragile, 3 months is functional. 6 months is where the cognitive tax starts to lift. That's the number the Princeton researchers were measuring around. Your credit score matters. I want to be clear about that. The $100,000 difference over a mortgage term is real. Landlords check it. Some employers check it. It is not nothing. But it's a measure of how reliably you've served the debt system. It is not a measure of how financially healthy you are. And a generation of people who can quote their score to the decimal but couldn't tell you their debt-to-income ratio or their months of liquid savings are people who have been handed a ruler and told it measures everything, when it only ever measured one wall of a much larger room. Dana figured this out eventually. 8 months after closing, she did the math Marcus had done before he ever applied. She saw the ratio. She saw the 3 months of savings she didn't have. She started building the things the score couldn't see. Her score went up a little in the process. That was the byproduct. The score was never the point. Here's the truth I'd want a friend to tell me across a table. The credit score is the financial equivalent of your GPA. It matters for a specific gate at a specific moment, and then it matters a lot less than everyone made it sound. The people who build real financial lives aren't the ones who optimize the score. They're the ones who built the cushion, watched the ratio, and let the score follow from the health instead of chasing the score and hoping health would follow from it. Chase the underlying thing. Let the number be the receipt. And that loan officer who quoted Marcus the better rate? She didn't do it because his score was impressive. She did it because when she looked at the full picture, she saw someone the system had already confirmed was unlikely to need rescuing. The score just told her where to look. If this changed how you think about the number on your screen, do me a favor and drop a comment telling me the last time you actually calculated your debt-to-income ratio. I'm genuinely curious how many people have never run that number. And if you want to see the exact moves that build net worth momentum fastest, especially in your first 100,000, that video is on the screen right now. Go watch that one next. I'll see you in it.